The Canadian Broadcasting Corporation presents the International Racquetball Classic. As players compete for $10,000 in prize money and the Leach Cup. Today, our women's championship game. KARIN Walton, 1979 U.S. national champion, will face the veteran Heather McKay, renowned for her squash abilities, but lately a racquetball champion.
Hello again, everyone. This is Scott Oak. Welcome back to the Court Sports Club in Winnipeg for more of the CBC International Racquetball Classic. This afternoon, we have our ladies' final for you. It'll be Heather McKay, the current Canadian and American champion. She's from Toronto. She'll face KARIN Walton from San Clemente, California. KARIN is currently third-ranked on the Pro Tour, and she is a former American champion. Heather, your rise to prominence in the sport in the last year has been phenomenal. Do you feel you might be at the top of your game heading into this final?
At the moment, yes, I think I'm playing as well as I've ever played. I think with a little bit more practice, maybe I can improve on a few more shots, and that's what I'll be working on in the future.
KARIN, Heather has risen to prominence so quickly that many people are intimidated by her. Might you be in the same position?
Not really. I rose to prominence quickly, too, in '77. But I feel really good. I'm anxious to play.
Okay, what kind of final can we expect?
Well, I don't know. I'll let you know when it's over with. I don't know. I never know what to expect until I get in there.
All right. You're going to capitalize on your good serve, I suppose?
I hope so, yeah.
All right. We'll see. Now to describe this afternoon's action, here are Don Whitman and Charlie Brumfield.
Thank you, Scott. Well, Charlie, KARIN was non-committal this time as to the type of final we would see. In the semifinal, she said she was going to use her serve to advantage against Linda Forcade, and she did. I think she might be just a little awed by the gal she's playing, Heather McKay.
Well, both women are extremely confident, you know. KARIN's ready, though. She's got her head stabilized for this one. But when you're going in to play McKay, she is such an outstanding athlete that the sheer athletic ability is on her side. Now, whether or not the match works out that way will depend upon who takes advantage of the low, hard driving serve.
I don't think Walton will have the same success against McKay with those aces that she served up so frequently against Linda Forcade in the semifinal.
Yeah, we mentioned during that match that Forcade appeared to be 6 to 8 inches slow getting over the ball. There's no one in the women's game quicker than Heather McKay. I can't imagine. I don't think I've ever seen a lady move quite as quickly as she does. And this is at 38 years old. It's absolutely incredible. Now, when we telecast the Forcade match against Walton, we said Forcade would be ill-advised to keep the ball low and flat because the power advantage that Walton had over her. I think here we have the tables turned. If Walton keeps the ball low and flat, she is going to be overpowered. In this case, Walton would be advised to keep the ball to the ceiling and utilize her superiority in shooting from backcourt. Heather still hasn't really adapted to racquetball, killing the ball from deep court. She prefers to use her pass shot and her physical prowess and her lateral mobility to grind her opponent down.
In contrast to the match involving Walton and Forcade, we have had McKay with 2 fine serves in this championship round, and her serve appears to be handcuffing KARIN Walton just a little.
Both of them have excellent serves, and Walton, of course, looked just devastating against Forcade. But as I mentioned then, had Forcade gambled and put a little more pressure on KARIN, it's possible that those ace serves would have collapsed and she'd have begun serving the ball off the back wall or serving short serves. Heather will definitely put pressure on. She wanted to hinder on that play on the back door. It caught the door and bounced off funny.
Get Miss Walton. I said it was good. Point.
That was a point for KARIN Walton.
You mentioned, too, in one of the matches involving Heather McKay earlier, that she never seems to perspire. She never seems to have worked up much of a sweat.
Oh, it's amazing. She says that all she does to maintain her fitness is jog a couple of miles and do some stretching exercises, and that's sort of like Marty Hogan. Marty, despite all the editorials and information he gives the press, doesn't work real hard at maintaining the Atlas-like body. And Heather, if I worked as hard as Heather, it would, well, it's already near retirement time for me, but I don't think any normal person can maintain the quickness that those two excellent athletes do, absent maybe 2 or 3 times the amount of work that they do.
How do you maintain your Charles Atlas physique?
Well, many have said that you could clean a pipe with my arms, and I just think it's hereditary. There's a nice Z serve, catching her way deep, forcing the flip shot, and gives her the easy ball. But see how she opted to drive the ball by her. The normal pro racquetball player, particularly in the men's division, would have opted to try to kill that ball. She's thinking squash, drive the ball by the opponent and have it die before the back wall. And in the women's division, I think it's an excellent device. You've seen the only player to do that successfully in the men's division has been Mike Yellen, and I think unless he decides to go a little bit more offensive on his play, he's never going to seriously threaten for the #1 spot.
That good serve again by Heather McKay as she has built up a 4-point lead.
Wide angle pass is a little shallow. She's stabbing at the ball, so Karin's sticking in there. It's not like she's being dominated. She just got to put a few of her shots away. If they keep the ball up, eventually Karin will tire, and the machine will not tire. Nice drive down the lane. She held her opponent. McKay got Walton on her hip, just as a basketball player will, and spun off and drove the ball down the right wall for just a clean pass shot. Called down the rails and squashed. There's a good fake. Let's see if it was short or an ace. It looks from the tilt of Karin's head that that was an ace. Nice motion. She served that virtually underhand. That's a good way to get deception, is to drop the head of the racket and come slightly over the outside of the ball. Nice serve to the left. McKay lifts that ball off that back wall excellently, but there's Walton's strength. The bottom board backhand, and she's trying to get herself fired up, ready to exert some offensive pressure on the 38-year-old phenom. Intercepting the ball. Perfect. Now that was a good adjustment because Walton slightly misjudged that ball coming out of the lack of depth perception of that dark glass back wall, but she still was able to make the hand-eye adjustment that a champion has to be able to make, and she certainly did come out of the pack to win that championship 2 years ago. To stare at the opponent. It's sort of like two fighters squaring off and staring at each other to show that neither is intimidated. And I think she's being truthful and not arrogant when she said she's not in awe of Heather, and perhaps Heather should be in awe of her. Neither gal has played each other, and they've both been champions in this sport of racquetball. And I think on a given day it could be a very, very close match. But Walton has got to execute very, very well to beat McKay, whereas McKay could play steady, moving the ball, and be able to get by.
I think we'll see McKay scooping the ball here.
See that step over with the right foot? We've mentioned that in earlier telecasts. That's the most efficient way to get to the ball. I don't think she got it. I don't think she quite got to it.
7-9.
Crack serve. That's the one she's been working on, and that will ace anybody. That will ace anybody if that ball goes in. If it does pop up, though, then you're in bad trouble because it gives the player a shot from midcourt to blow it by you. That should have been an avoidable hinder. That should have been an avoidable hinder. Was not called. Oftentimes referees think, hey, it's only girls playing. That's not the way to look at it. That was an avoidable hinder as much as the peck move was in last week's telecast.
Oh, ball's down.
Walton wants an avoidable hinder. She is absolutely incensed. McKay thought it was just good, clean racquetball. Good movement. Tough shot, retrieving to the back wall, and just didn't get enough oomph on it.
That requires a lot of strength, particularly for the gals, to get that backhand drive off the glass wall to carry it all the way to the top.
Right, it's a desperation shot for anyone, and that was too. She tried to tweak it. She couldn't really see the ball off that back glass and misjudged it. But when you do try to hit the ball into the back wall, it should only be as a last result because it gives your opponent all different types of options to win the point. Nice backhand down the lane. Good recovery. She flips it up. Let's see what McKay does with it. Snaps it for a winner. Great shot.
So Heather McKay is in the lead in this match, but Scott Oak is going to talk to Karin Walton.
Karin, your serve got you back into this game early when you ran off about 4 points. I guess you're going to have to do the same.
Yeah, unfortunately, she's the one that's rolling them out. So, I don't know. Got to concentrate a little bit more. Take more time when I serve.
You two are wailing the daylights out of the ball.
That's what we like to play. We're both kind of power players. Just blast the ball.
Okay, we'll see what happens as the CBC International Racquetball Classic continues.
12-8.
That's the score as we resume play in Game 1 of this women's championship involving Karin Walton and Heather McKay. In the interview, Karin Walton said to Scott Oak that she was going to try and blast the ball past Heather McKay. I think she'll require more than just strength against this very fine athlete.
13-8.
I think it was incorrect unidimensional thought process when she said that, hey, I like to blast the ball. It's a game I like to play. Although there's no need for her to concede at this first meeting that Heather is a finer athlete. As an objective observer, I have to say that McKay's faster, can hit the ball harder. So why go in and play Heather's game of run and gun? That's like going toe-to-toe with George Foreman, the Reverend, in his prime. You just don't do it. So what I would advocate at this point in time for the challenger to the world champion Heather McKay now is to go in with a thought process of, hey, I'm going to use finesse and I'm going to use power when I have an opportunity to. I'm going to serve high and low. I'm going to mix it up. I'm going to use my great backhand and my cool to beat this woman. I am not going to play her her own game. If she does that, she can stay in the game and perhaps win it. Walton is no slouch. She was a champion of the world 2 years ago, but she is going in there with the idea that she's going to beat McKay at her own game, and that's a no-no. That's a tough crack serve again.
She's got that down very, very well.
That's the serve I used when I beat Hogan in the '76 Nationals because it's one way of playing against a power player. If the ball cracks out early, that forces the player to reach up, just as Walton was forced to in that last move, and they can't generate power from the up-front zone. As Marty is exemplified in his tips and in his fine play, the power zone is farther back to the middle or even off the back foot of the stance.
Well, Charlie, you talked about the '76 Nationals. How long has the Pro Tour been in existence? And I'm speaking now of the men.
The Pro Tour started in 1973. We were playing more or less amateur ball from 69, 68, up until 73, and then the Pro Tour started under the guidance of Bob Kendler and has been improving each and every year. I remember that first year we went into Aurora, Illinois, and I thought that was something you had to cure at the free clinic, and then the next stop was Peoria, Illinois, and some pro joked to me that that must be an advanced case of Aurora. But now we've moved up and higher, and now the game's international. Next year we're definitely going to have a contestant from Tijuana. They have a new 8-court facility.
I think you might require a visa to get back into the state of Illinois.
But the women have joined the tour. I think it was in '74 that they became an integral part of the tour. And now there's some political byplay as to what's going on. But the ladies, I think, are going to go like every other major sport. They're going to gradually separate into their own private tour. And maybe the two would get together in the CBC type classic in as much as they do in tennis and Wimbledon, that type of thing, your major championship internationally.
Well, Heather McKay now has got this one completely under control.
She's going with the lob serve now. Ordinarily, when it's in tough, she doesn't do that type of thing. Nice get. Once again, it's that stepping procedure, and she popped it in. Heather uses a very, very stiff graphite racket, which is unusual for a lady. I recommend in my clinics that most women play with fiberglass, the same principle as women playing with more flexible golf shafts to give them a little more power.
Game point serves 11.
Possible game point. There it is. And for Heather McKay, a 21-11 victory over KARIN Walton in the first game. Were you surprised?
No, not really. I consider Heather to be in Marty's class as an athlete and the finest athlete, I think, in the distaff side of the draw.
Well, we're going to be back with Marty Hogan and his tip for this week. But first, let's pause for this message.
0, play.
We move into Game 2. Heather McKay winning easily, 21-11, Game 1. One game away from the Women's Championship in our CBC International Racquetball Series.
1-0.
A lady over the years who has demonstrated a great deal of proficiency and skill in her, I guess, favorite sport, the game of squash, but now has picked up racquetball and is equally as proficient.
That was an excellent shot you just hit there. She has a very, very unusual backhand style. When she goes down the line with the backhand, she tends to slide across the shot, not getting underspin or overspin, but side spin that keeps the ball hugging the side wall. And I think that is a holdover from her squash. Nice view there. She didn't... Heather, when she tried to pass the ball, did not quite get enough angle on the ball, so Walton was able to fly, kill the ball into the corner, and keep Heather on her backside.
It must get discouraging after a while when you hit some of your best shots and you still can't move your opponent out of there.
Well, that's the advantage that Heather has. Her excellent lateral mobility keeps the intense pressure on you to make rollouts. And anytime you're aiming for the bottom board, you can make errors, outright errors. And so Heather, just like Marty, probably gets 5 or 6 balls a game hit into the floor that would not be hit in the floor against ordinary people. Watch this shot at the back wall. Most difficult to time off that dark black. Hits the drive, down that wall. Heather gets a good start on it, but still, it was a tough shot to get to. That ball's going to fly out the back wall for an easy setup, but she did not put it away, and now she's stuck going down the right wall. Very, very disgusted with herself. Walton has got to capitalize when she gets those easy balls from midcourt, particularly with her bread and butter backhand. Can't do that either. You can't go low and hard against Heather McKay. There's no way, because McKay will step over with that awkward, like pigeon-toed stance and drill you a new one. It's as simple as that. Tough shot. Heather couldn't see the ball too well either, but there she's got the ball, and she fly-kill it. Now, that was an excellent shot. Excellent shot. She could have let the ball come off the back wall, but that would have given Karin an extra millisecond to recover center court position.
You have to have amazingly quick reflexes in this sport.
That's particular in the men's division also. That's why most of your men players are through when they're 23 or 24. They begin to slow down their reflexes a little bit. Very similar to international table tennis players are really hurting when they're 25. It's only the exceptional player that can go beyond the quarter-century mark.
7-1.
And only a guy like maybe Stranamo can hang on into their 30s. But on the women's side of the draw, the 2 last prevalent champions have been older gals, and they've been able, by maintenance of tremendous physical conditioning, to stick in there. A little shallow on that drive, but Walton failed to capitalize again, and she's really irritated herself. Let's take a look at that again. Setting up for the backhand. Now, Heather's basic propensity is to go cross-court. She did not get it wide enough. Karin stepped over, missed the shot sidewall, front wall, left herself wide open for the ball into the open court.
Here she is now with Scott Oak.
Well, this has turned into a unique game plan. Serve it, serve it, and serve it again.
Well, they're coming off, and I hope they're going to stay with me for the rest of the game, Scott. My good serves are making Karin set up a few loose ones, which then I'm able to put away. So if I can keep that up, I'll be very happy.
Can you usually serve this well?
No, as I said before, I think this is a particularly fast ball, and I think that's the best I've served for a long, long time.
I'm sure you're happy with your stroke, hitting the ball well.
Yes, I'm putting the loose ones away that Karin's setting up for me as well. That's the best I've hit those for a long time as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Heather McKay has certainly been doing well, and she had this one in control very early. She continued to pile up the points. There really wasn't much doubt from the outset of this match.
Now it's about time for the fat lady to sing. Where's Yellen after he lost that money for me last week?
Well, you weren't going to pick Walton in this one, I know that.
No, I think that Heather is a fine athlete, and although Walton is a former world champion, she is playing the best of the world at this particular moment.
We pick up action here with Karin Walton, I should say, just attempting to get into the double figures, which she has succeeded in doing.
Nice little pin shot there. If she could have done that earlier in the match, she might have been able to catch Heather, keep her honest a little bit. Heather was able to lag because Karin repeatedly failed to convert on the few errors that Heather made. There's that nice backhand, but she's leaving it up. Now, this is the kind of ball she had to score on, and there's that great lateral mobility, almost got to that ball.
Heather McKay talking to herself.
Actually, she's talking to her racket at that hole where the ball went through.
12-20.
12 serves 20. She needs a string of those aces that she got in the earlier match. Left up the backhand. So did Heather, though. Both of them are playing a little bit sloppy here at the end, but there's a nice crack shot that caught the sidewall for a winner.
So now this is possible match point for Heather McKay. This would give her the CBC Women's Championship.
We might add, for the second consecutive Laura, it's God's will.
Heather McKay is the winner, winning by a score of 21-12. Well, Heather McKay had a great deal of success with her serves, particularly in Game 1. She was acing KARIN WALTON rather frequently.
Yes, it was tit for tat because that's where KARIN had won her earlier match. So I might add that from an editorial standpoint, the ball might be slowed down a little bit to allow the girls to play more rallies. But
well, let's take a look at some of those fine serves of
here's
Heather
a good
McKay.
example of the ace right here. Driving that ball down the left side for the Z, snapping it around. Now, KARIN's in a position where she has to scrape the ball virtually off the back wall, and those become difficult points to maintain your center court position on.
Well, we certainly offer our congratulations to Heather McKay on her fine play throughout the ladies section of this tournament.
I think she's the best racquetball player I've ever seen, and I don't give compliments lightly. As you know, you're one of the worst I've ever worked with.
Charlie Brumfield, thank you very much. Now let's meet our ladies champion.
KARIN, you played well towards the end of the match, unfortunately too late.
Well, it's the old story of her playing good and me not. She played really good. There was not a whole lot I could do, especially with her serves. You know, she had ace serves left and right.
Her serve set the tone for the match from the outset, didn't it?
Yeah, she just played all around well.
Okay, congratulations, though, KARIN. You were a fine finalist.
Trouble because it gives the player a shot from mid-court to blow it by you. That should have been an avoidable hinder. That should have been an avoidable hinder. It was not called. Oftentimes referees think, hey, it's only girls playing. That's not the way to look at it. That was an avoidable hinder as much as the peck move was in last week's.